Hello learners. So in this module, we will be discussing around business analysis, planning and monitoring. Now, the topics of this module will be the introduction, the core concept model in the business analysis, planning and monitoring, involved parties, structure of the knowledge area, life cycle of a business analysis project, example of the type of the project business analyst might be involved in, how to identify the business problem. And finally, we have why is a business analyst required on a project team? To start with the introduction, so we have the business analysis, planning, and monitoring activities lay out the groundwork necessary for the successful completion of the whole project. Now, the knowledge areas, business analysis, planning, and monitoring of the business analysis framework focuses on the preparing and monitoring the execution of the business analysis work. Now, all the outputs that are produced within this knowledge area are used by other knowledge areas. Therefore, the business analysis, planning, and monitoring is often seen as a first step in the framework. Now, if we talk about what is the business analysis, planning, and monitoring about, so before you start any real business analysis work, so you think critically about what you have to do, study available materials, talk about the in the initiative, and try to find answers to the following question. So there are some questions which needs to be answered before starting any business analysis work. Like who are my stakeholders or who are the stakeholders? How to involve them? What do they see as value? How to handle changes? What problems do we want to solve? And who takes the decision about the requirement? How to approach the behavior? How to handle information we elicit? And do we know the business objective our initiative contributes to? And what are the initiatives object? So this kind of question we needs to be asked to ourselves before starting any groundwork. Because if we know all the answer of these questions, so we can contribute more towards the business goal and towards the business analysis activities. Now, these questions are just examples to illustrate the preparation efforts that take place if you take up the business analysis assignment. Now, you may have your own list of the things to learn about. Here, the important thing is that the answers you get help you better understand the initiative, its scope, and your role in it. Now, they also help you in planning your work so that is that it is done efficiently and effectively. Now, here, being prepared contributes to achieving the better results and defining the business solutions that deliver the real values. Here, the quotes think before you act or proper preparation prevents poor performance. That may be used to reflect what the phase is for. And if we talk about the additionally, this business analysis, planning, and monitoring knowledge area contains the element of assessment and improvement of its own activities. Now, when performing the business analysis activities, you want to know whether the work you or your team does is truly done efficiently or effectively in line with the organizational performance objective. If not, then corrective action may be required that result in improved performance or prevent performance gets worse. Here, the Task ensures a focus on the continuous improvement. And then if we talk about the core concept of the model in the business analysis, planning, and monitoring, so it is here we have the core concepts like change. So if we talk about the change, so change is the act of transformation in response to a need. Now we have to deal with that by asking during the business analysis, planning, and monitoring, business analysts are responsible to determining how changes to the business analysis result will be requested and authorized. And if we talk about the concept of need, so need is nothing but a problem or an opportunity to be addressed. Now we have to state that concept as during business analysis, planning, and monitoring, business analysts choose a business analysis approach that provides adequate analysis for the change. And then we have the concept of solution. So solution is a specific way of satisfying one or more need in a context. Now we have to tackle that as during the business analysis, planning, and monitoring, business analysts evaluate if business analysis performance was a key contributor to the successful implementation of a solution. And then we have the concept of stakeholders. So stakeholder is an individual or a group with a relationship to the change or the need or even the solution. Now, during the business analysis, planning and monitoring, so business analyst perform a stakeholder analysis to ensure planning and monitoring activities reflects stakeholders' needs and account for the stakeholder characteristic. And now, if we talk about the concept of value, so value is the worth or importance or the usefulness of something to a stakeholder within the context. Now, we have to address that as during the business analysis, planning, and monitoring. So, business analysts conduct performance analysis to ensure that business analysis activities continue to produce the sufficient value for the stakeholder. Then we have the concept of context. Now, here the context is the circumstances that influence or are influenced by and provide the understanding of the change. We have to address that as during the business analysis, planning, and monitoring, business analysts ensure a complete understanding of the context under an analysis in order to develop an efficient business analysis approach. So, these are the core concept model in the business analysis, planning, and monitoring, and the ways to approach that. Now, if we talk about the involved parties, so we have first in a in any project, so we have involved parties such as business analyst, customer, domain SME, end user, implementation SME, operational support, project manager, regulator, sponsor, it could be the product sponsor or the project sponsor, and then the supplier and also the tester. Each have their individual role. Like business analyst will be act as a bridge, and so do project managers. And then customer and end users who will use the end application or the end product. And then the domain SME will provide some solutions or will address some problems to their domain. And implementation SME will take care of the implementation, what we have implemented. And then the operation support team will provide the support in some operations. Then we have the regulators who will take care of the or who will provide some light on the some regulatory compliance or some rules, some policies, and then we have the suppliers who provide some data or raw materials into the project. And then we have the taster. So who will taste the final application or who will check the software code. Now, if we talk about the structure of the knowledge area, then we have here we can see that we have input as a task and we have the output. Like so, input for the business analysis, planning, and monitoring will be the needs that could be the business need, and then the external performance objectives. And now here in the task we have to plan the business analysis approach, to plan the stakeholder engagement activities, to plan the business analysis governance, to plan the business analysis information management, to identify the business analysis performance improvement, and as an output we have business analysis approach, stakeholder engagement approach, then governance approach, then business information management approach, and business analysis performance assessment. So this is the structure of the knowledge area for business analysis, planning, and monitoring. And if we take a look at each task and its role in the business analysis, planning, and monitoring efforts, so we have the plan the business analysis approach. Now here, the business analysis approach defines how business analysis for the initiative will be done. And here the approach is depend on the multiple factors, one of the which is selected planning approach. Suppose if you work according to the waterfall development life cycle, so you will have a high level of the formality and clear phasing in activities. And if you work with the iterative development life cycle, that is the agile, so you will have less formality and continuous analysis activities. So the next, you derive the required deliverables and tasks needed to complete them, and it is including the timelines. Now we have planned stakeholder engagement approach. Now here the stakeholders can make or break the initiatives. Knowing your stakeholders and understanding their needs and the expectation is essential to the success of any initiative. In this task, so we have to identify and analyze the stakeholder to the development, the best possible communication and engagement strategy. Then we have plan the business analysis information management. So in this, we have during the business analysis work, you receive a lot of inputs like documentation, process description, interview notes, etc. Now you have to plan how to deal with all this business analysis information, what you will keep, where you will keep, and when it will be stored, and who can access it. So you also consider the requirement reuse, like you can identify the requirement that you can reuse or decide to create the requirement that can be reused by the others for the requirement management purposes. So you have to decide what requirements attributes you intend to use. You will also have to decide how you trace the requirements to other business analysis information. Example, models or code or test cases. So then we have the plan governance approach. Now here, the governance approach defines how decisions are made concerning the business analysis work. That is the prioritization or approvals. Now you can think here about defining First, who will approve the deliverables, who makes the final decision and in conflict situation, how to change management process looks like, and who makes the decision about the changes at the different stages of this process. Now, having these aspects clarified and documented somewhere saves a lot of time later into the initiative. And then identify the business analysis performance improvement. Now, here it is not about the preparation for the business analysis work, but about the ensuring that the work is done effectively and efficiently. It also has an additional input performance objective. Now, these objectives are used to define the metrics and measures for the business analysis purpose process. If a discrepancy is detected between the expected and the measured performance, so the improvements are defined and executives. Knowing what is expected of us help us perform the at the expected level, or sometimes we can do beyond of the expectation if we know all key areas. Now, if we talk about the life cycle of the business analysis project, so we have a business analyst acts as a liaison between the client and the technical team. The client and the technical team have different focus areas and hence might have some conflicts which interacting directly to each other. This is to minimize the occurrences of the such cases. Business analyst comes into the picture and so he fills the gap between the client and the technical team. Now here the business analysis life cycle includes a comprises of the following processes like understanding the business. Now here a business analyst is not just responsible for gathering the requirements but also understanding them. Only then he will be or he can provide an appropriate solution. In order to understand the requirement, a business analyst has to first understand the underlying business and the existing processes of the client. A business analyst has to analyze the market very accurately for that business, which means proper identification of the customer for those products and services. And then we have identified the business needs. Also, it is known as the business cases. So this process mainly focuses on the pinning down the goals and the objective of the processes projects. This information can be gathered by interacting with the customer and end user who have been previously associated with with this business. Now their needs and requirements are clearly understood and which help in focusing on the goals and objective of the project. Then we have defined the project scope. Before moving on, the BA is responsible for defining the scope of the project. Now this involves some determination of the goals of the project, what all features are to be delivered, and the deliverables. What are the tasks and people needed, and the deadlines for the each task. And finally, at the cost estimation has to be done. Now, all the scenario have to be analyzed as a part of defining the project. Now, after all this, so we have to, as a business analyst, we have to elicit the requirements. So this may be termed the major role of the business analyst. Now, a business analyst is needed to elicit the requirement accurately in order to provide the optimum feasible solution. Now, there are various elicitation techniques which are used to obtain the 3C advantages. Now here 3C stands for correct, complete and consistent gathering of the requirement. So the various elicitation techniques are as follows, like brainstorming, focus groups, document analysis, reverse engineering, observation, workshop, JAD, that is called joint application development, and the interview, prototyping, and the questionnaire or survey. So this is the way we have to elicit the requirements, and also we have to make the requirement is crystal clear to avoid some future chaos. After this, we have to analyze the requirement. After eliciting the requirements, once this requirement have been clearly gathered from the client, they are further organized and verified. During this research, many more facts come upfront. Once all the internal facts, whether relevant or irrelevant, related to particular requirement, come into light, and we move on in observing the remaining requirements. Now, this process of digging up each and every requirement in depth is known as the analyzing the requirement. And after this, we have document and present requirement. Now, BA's job doesn't end with just gathering and analyzing the requirement. Once that is a that part is over, so next comes the documenting this requirement and getting them approved. After carefully analyzing each and every requirement, so BA document this requirement using the various standards such as CMMI, IEEE, or some templates provided by the organization. Once the documents are ready, they are sent to the senior BAs or SMEs for the verification. After proper screening of this document, the lead will approve this document. And then we have to communication of the requirements. So once all the requirement have been understood, analyzed and documented and been approved, so BA have to be communicated to the client for the final verification. And the client has to understand and give his approval that the requirement gathered are correctly understood and documented. Once this is done, only the BA can move ahead with the further processes. In order to communicate with the stakeholders, and different approaches are used, such as communication plan, communication model, effective communication, efficient communication, communication method, and communication type. And we have the process modeling. Now, just documentation is not sufficient for the technical team to be clear on every requirement. So the BA has to communicate this requirement to the project manager by modeling this requirement. Here, the BA can either create the UML diagrams, that is unified modeling language, or create few prototypes or come up with the number of wireframes depicting each of these requirement. Now, it is very easy for the technical leads to see these models and can get a good knowledge of the requirement along with the proposed solution. And after this, we have verification of the solution meeting and requirement. Once the model have been communicated to the technical team, they continue with the various phase of designing, developing, and testing. Now, the BA during this phases doesn't sit idle. In fact, he contribute in each of these phases as well. For example, he verifies that all the requirements have been considered during the design phase, during the development phase. If there are if any change request come up, then the BA has to handle those and communicate with the technical team after proper analysis. Now, during the testing phase, so the BA has to go for a complete testing of the application, and once when he is sure that the application meets all the requirement, he facilitate the UAT for the client. Now, these are the main roles we can say for a business analyst in the life cycle of the business analysis process. Now, the life cycle works on the improvement of the business analysis all the time. And this concept delivers the following benefit. So, the proven and effective approaches are used from the first project day. And then the planning of business analysis activities becomes more effective. And communication with the stakeholder is effective and has fewer surprises. And the requirements are not being missed. The proven procedures, reports, and templates are the norm. And business analysis function continuously increases its value to the business. And then if we talk about the project, a business analyst work on typically have a four stages of the project cycle. That is initiation, planning, execution, and the closure. So sometimes we can club first two stages together as initiation and planning as an initiation. Now, every stage has the different type of the activity that requires some form of the support, and from understanding from the big picture to the metric measurement, business analyst wear a variety of hats as each project progresses to its stages. Now, if we talk about some examples of the different types of the project in the business analyst might be involved with. So we have the new category and strategic project. So this type of the projects often involve benchmarking and market analysis, strategy analysis, understanding the current capabilities and the changing organizational culture. Now, such project may involve updating the current IT systems as well as the potentially being a people-oriented project. Then we have the IT projects. Now, in order to improve the business processes and or customer experience, many organizations may be required to upgrade their core IT infrastructure or enhance their existing IT system. Now, a business analyst needs to understand the technology involved, what problem the business faces, and what the ideal solution will be. And then the operational improvement project. Now, here, so these are the people oriented project that includes enhancing the process flows, updating the standard operating procedures, and moving the location where the processes are currently being performed. So the business analyst will start with the current state analysis, review the option, recommend the solution, and see the project through to implementation. Now, after having this, we have how to identify the business problem. So first, we have identifying a business problem is a big part of how you handle the issue of your company, not only making as much money as it realistically could be. Now, being able to quickly identify the problems within your business is even more important when your company is losing money. In many instances, problem with the business may not be readily apparent from the start, but it isn't uncommon for a problem to go unnoticed until it's seen it's been around the long enough to cause some damage. Now, at that point, you or your staff could find yourself scrambling to deal with the issue so that you can minimize the impact. And then, even if you manage to catch it quickly, so your revenue and the market share could suffer just as the easily as your reputation with the customer and the client. So the question is, so how do you go about identifying the business problems so that you can deal with them as early as possible? Now, it is very important to ask yourself a question like you can't come up with an answer unless you have a question first. So when you are looking for a way to identify a problem, it helps to ask yourself the question or a series of questions so that you can come up with the potential solution. Let's say what you have a customer, let's say that you have a customer who wants to return something that they purchased from your company. Now, when they do attempt to return it, either you or one of your employees messes up the process and making it take longer than it should. Now, we have to understand that why did it happen this way? Was the employee in the question properly trained in the return process? Did they carefully listen to the customer's concern or not? Now, these are just a few of the questions that can arise in the situation like this. Without the right answers, you could not only jeopardize your relationship with this particular customer, but others who come later. That is why identifying the business problem by being able to answer these questions in a way that it will only improve the area that is being the question and is critical to solving the small issue before it has a chance to grow. If you don't want to, if you don't want to appease the customer in the above example, for instance, who's to say how many years word of the customer's negative experience could reach? So suppose we are not taking the customer very seriously. So who could know that they will lodge some negative experience, or they can sue us, and they can go to the market, and they can also reveal his bad experience. So that will create a negative impact on the company. Now, without addressing the customer's problem to their complete satisfaction, you could you could open yourself up to the scrutiny from many others in the future. Now, that is why we have to know what the root cause is. Now, part of the identifying the business problem and dealing with them should ideally involve the going on beneath the surface. Then everything happens for a reason in a business, either good or bad. Now, it has more than one person written the same product. There might be a problem with its design or construction. Then do you feel as though you are not getting enough business? You may need to increase your marketing efforts by doing some advertising. As an employee's performance dropped recently, so there might be an issue in his or her personal life that's causing it. Then beneath every problem is a deeper issue that has to be dealt with for the problem to be completely eliminated rather than simply swept to the side. And then if you leave the underlying cause of the problem in place, you run the risk of the immediate issue coming back time and time again. Now, if we get some insight, so we have identifying the business problem isn't something that you should always try yourself. It could be that a problem exists, the exists right under your nose, but you are not in any kind of the position to notice it. That's why it helps to get outside the opinion. So we can talk to the co-workers, customers, and entrepreneurs in the same way in the same industry. Now, and anyone else who might be able to find the issue that you could be missing. Now, by consulting with these people who are constantly exposed to the part of your business that you may not deal with every single day, but you could potentially uncover this issue that might have otherwise been allowed to persist. And that is why it pays to the good practice a degree of transparency and open dialogue in a business. Not only will you have other sets of eyes and ears, but that it will notice things that you could overlook, but you will be establishing the bond of the trust that could take your business places for the years to come. And then don't waste time. So whenever it comes to identifying the business problem, so the worst thing you can do is let it sit. The problems have tendency to snowball if you let them. Now you need to be proactive to dealing with that. And by having even a small tool in every aspect of your business, you will have some idea of how things are run that will expose you to idiosyncrasies of that part of the businesses and show you what you can do about the issue there as they are. Now, as you become the more familiar with the company's different aspect, you will be able, you will be, you will become better at identifying the business problem and keeping them from the growing to the point where dealing with them, and it will take more time than realistically it should. Then here we have to remember that running a business successfully doesn't need to be complicated. So we have to just keep it simple. Then, for example, a business that assumes sales is a cause of a business problem, and in fact they have a marketing problem. If they had enough leads coming in, so they wouldn't have that so-called sales problem. Or businesses that assume the cash flow is the only problem, but if they just looked at their pricing and margins, their cash flow problems would disappear. So that way we need some out of box thinking to identify a problem. So rather than spending more time and more money and overall working harder to get back on the track, you need to overlook, you need to look deeper at what the cause is. Now it is about the talking the time to diagnose the problem and find the resource of where these problems are coming from. Now, here, one way to approach this is to look at the business as the whole to explore the different causes that can lead to the symptoms you are experiencing so the correct course of action can be taken. Now, for example, the poor workflow can be caused by poor sales, too much stock, outstanding debtors, too much debt, too many drawings, not enough leads. and so on. Now we have we have one question: why is a business analyst required on a project team? So first of all, most perceive business analyst to be among one of the best equipped professional to deal with complexity with their ability to deep dive and discover key themes, their ability to cope with rapid changes to their environment. Now, the project success involves the business analyst and the project team collaborating effectively in tandem towards the finish line. The business analysts are often seen as a team player in the wider project teams, as they can often find themselves wearing different hats or playing different kind of roles whilst leading on business analysis activities throughout the project. Here, moreover, business analyst offers crucial support to the project managers throughout the project cycle by applying skills such as conflict resolution, stake, stakeholder management, and communication skill to manage the expectation of their stakeholders. Here, most importantly, a business analyst are also known for the looking beyond further project. A business analyst continues searching for the benefits and the values for the organization as a whole and demonstrating the leadership by the communicating the strategies inside to the organization's management team, which may in turn lead to the future initiative or projects. And then in the next learning, so we will be discussing around the elite elicitation and the collaboration. So with this, thank you.